This is a 16th episode and we don't have a theme song, so I'm singing this silly tune. Oh yeah! Okie dokie folks, welcome to the Minsk and Friends Speakeasy end of the year Spectravaganza 2021. This is Minsk.
And it's Joonatan.
Hooray! And we have come to the end of another year, which means it's time for a look back. It's our second year of podcasting. Hooray!
Hooray! Although it doesn't really feel like that 2 years have passed because of the damn COVID.
Yeah, and in general, time has just felt so relative over the last few years that, it's gonna feel weird going on our third year starting next year. That's, But so it goes. How's the year in general been for you?
Like you said, it's been very relative, at least in terms of time.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the year just started, and already here we are in December, and I feel like I haven't gotten anything done.
Yes, I can agree to this. It's been on and off throughout this year. I thought summer was fine, but I really feel like November just started, but we are now in December recording this episode, so I don't know where that month went. That's a mystery for the ages.
Yep.
Oh, bother. But it's been good. It's been good still. I've enjoyed the games that have come out. I've enjoyed all the sort of little projects I've gotten going this year. I hope it's been the same for you.
I was just looking, because I'm also putting together like the, best films, best TV shows and stuff for my site, and I was looking that like this year, I have done, I have published about 80 reviews.
That's a respectable 1.5 per week, I believe. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like just on my personal site. Then doesn't count for like all the other stuff for other places.
Nice. Okay, so that's probably even double that number then. Possibly.
Yeah. And then and I feel like that there's been a lot of good stuff, more good than bad, I'd say.
That's always a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of content at least. But yeah, it's been good. How about you?
Likewise, I'm pretty thrilled with this year and the stuff that came our way and the stuff that I got to do. It's been really nice, and I hope it carries on for the next year. I'm just going to ask right away, just to really quickly name, because last year we didn't end up having time talking about anything but games. Is there something outside of games you want to really call out at the moment for people that came out this year that was really, really good?
Oh, outside of games?
Yeah, anything that comes right away to your mind that you should mention.
The Green Knight. It's a movie that came out a couple of months ago with Dev Patel in the lead.
Yeah, I remember the trailer for that. You said that it was weird, but very interesting.
It was super good. Yes, it's wonderful to see something like that takes so many risks in terms of storytelling.
And that was an A24 film, right?
Yes.
Well, they make some really creative films, so I can see that one being fascinating.
Yeah, and apart from that, I think one of the better things was you introducing me to the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye.
Oh yes, yeah.
Which I ended up loving very much, and then I have now seen the Hawkeye TV show, which I also reviewed, and I really liked that one, and I think I liked it even better because I now knew the Matt Fraction run, and I saw how much they were paying homage to it and how much they were taking from it. So
nice.
Thank you for that. I really loved it. I thought that the comic was great.
No problem. I'm super glad that I was able to throw a good recommendation for once, because I've been a long-time fan of specifically Hawkeye and Mr. Fraction's work in general. So yeah, and I'm looking really forward to seeing Hawkeye at some point as a big fan.
Right, and you and I, we've been talking about it, that we both really like Hawkeye because he's the everyday hero. He's the everyman of the group. And it's so weird, like we talked about, it's so weird seeing people going like, oh, how could they make a TV show about the most boring Avenger? And you're like, what? He's great.
Yeah, I guess where they're... I can understand where they're coming from in terms of wowiness. like because it's so much more low stakes, the Hawkeye stories about him. But I really appreciate, like, apart from Hawkeye, I really loved back in the day the Luke Cage and Iron Fist comics. Now they have superpowers, so they're not exactly like down to earth guys, but they were like those street level Marvel stories, and I really loved that angle to the storytelling. Same with like Spider-Man. I really like when it's just Spider-Man dicking around in New York. There's like a charm to that. So I think Hawkeye has that in spades, which is, my big love for the character.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess I should also toss out something. I'll toss out in the music world something that I recommend. I thought the most interesting musician I learned this year about was the band Unrequited. That's Unrequited with a very culty V instead of a U. It's a one-man project from Canada that... well, I guess it's black metal, but I'm not really a fan of normal black metal. But this one is strictly in that area of black metal that is like really synth heavy and atmospheric. And I was spellbound by their 2021 album, Beautiful Ghosts. And it's, if you want like really synth heavy, but it is still like really like powerful music, I thought this was super good, so that's my album of the year. I'll just say that.
Oh, sweet. I will have to go and listen to that.
Yeah, definitely. Give it a try. One man did it too, which is really cool. I'm always fascinated by that when there are like these multi-instrumentalists, but yeah.
Yeah, even better. Cool.
So, let's roll into the actual video game side of things now, so we can jump into our top 5 list. Before that, you had done some extra credit homework because you actually had an entire top 10 planned. I imagine you're planning to make an article about this on your website, right? So you had to like prep.
I am actually going to make a video about it.
Ooh, exciting. We can talk more about that at the end of the episode, but Joonatan has some video content of himself now to for your viewing pleasure. But yeah, that sounds great. So I can't really do a top 10 list because I'm not sure I actually got around to playing 10 games that came out in 2021. So I can't really join in. But why don't you really quickly tell us your 10 through 6 games for everyone's interest?
Yeah, I will very briefly. I'm not going to elaborate too much on them. But here we go. Number 10. And I'm sure you're going to have some of these on your list.
Yeah, definitely. That's the fun of like getting other like perspectives on some of these games. So I'll be happy to talk about them at length if they come up again on my list.
So number 10 is Doom Eternal: The Ancient Gods.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, the DLC.
You're right. It's an expansion pack, but it was still pretty long, and I thought it was great. It was a perfect ending for Doom.
Yeah, I guess you can count them because there's 2 parts to it. Like that definitely fills out to be like a proper game. I think the 2 of them.
Yeah, and it was one of those that it was really hard, and I really like grinded my teeth with it, but I really enjoyed it.
I haven't jumped on those yet precisely because of the difficulty, but I guess I should because I loved the base game so much. So I will keep it in mind.
And then number 9, The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of this series to begin with, and this did not disappoint. I am actually still playing through it because there's so much to do, but I really loved it. I gave it a good review, and I think it's if you like Phoenix Wright games.
I played my first Phoenix Wright this year. It's actually recorded on my channel, and I'm kind of like, should I jump on to Great Ace Attorney or play the other parts? Because I know it's like set in the past, so it's not so continuity tied to the other games, but glad to hear that experimentation worked out.
Oh yeah, it's great. Number 8 is a shared position because these are 2 very similar games. Age of Empires 4 and Humankind.
Ah, okay. Interesting choices.
So really nice to see old school RTS games and these kind of really big civilization type of games make a comeback. And these are both great examples of it.
Cool to hear.
Number 7, Valheim.
Ooh, yes, of course. Valheim is great.
And like this is one of those I kind of struggle to put because it's not done yet. It's in early access, but we spent so much time playing it. We spent at least 30, 50 hours on this game throughout the year.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because you had the server, you had the server right, so you got to play it a lot. Like when I wasn't around, and I know you and some of our friends had some crazy projects going on in that game.
Right, and it's something that we keep returning to. Like, even if months go by, we'll eventually at some point go, hey, we should play Valheim.
Oh,
And then we go
absolutely.
there, yeah, then we just go and it's another 2, 3 weeks lost to playing that game. So any game that does that is automatically in my top 10.
Yeah. I didn't actually have it in my list this year, precisely as you mentioned. It's still in early access, and I thought like maybe I'll sit on it. Although I have a hard time imagining that it's somehow going to become terrible in between now and full release. But I'll happily talk about it at further length next year when it comes out of.
They'll add loot boxes into it or something like that.
Yes, that would be like some kind of forced monetization. Okay, fine, that will be a deal breaker probably.
Yeah. So if it does that next year, I am rescinding it then like retroactively. It's like, no.
Fair beans.
And then very quickly, number 6 is a shared indie slot for a game called 2D and Top D and Glyph.
You mentioned 2D and Top D. I remember that.
Yes, 2D and Top D are by two brothers who made this game. It's like a passion project. It's just one of these games where it reminds me of just how much you can still do with even like really conventional mechanics. And I'm so glad that it exists. It made me so happy to play it. And the same thing for Glyph. Glyph is just, it's as pure as gaming gets. There's, it's it's a platformer that does everything right.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I remember watching. You had a video review of that, and it certainly looked spellbinding.
yeah, it's really chill. I really love both of them, and I'm really glad they exist. I wanted to specifically give them a shout out because those kind of indie games keep me going when I get tired of AAA nonsense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool stuff. Very cool stuff indeed. Well, thank you for your bottom of your top 10. That was really worth it to bring those games up. Those are all good games worth highlighting.
Yeah, but what do you say you start with your number 5?
Okay, yeah, let's do that. I will drop my top 5 first. Or sorry, my number 5 going from bottom from up. Let's get to my picks here. Actually, kind of like your last two picks, I'm going with the kind of like little indie award here. I was debating like, is this really my number 5 slot? Because there were some other like choices. These would have been like, competing for top 0.5 or 0.6. I decided to put this because I'm not sure if any other like award ceremony is going to highlight this game this year. So I felt like, and it was like a really consistently good experience. So I'm going to put as my number 5 in my list, the adventure game Papetura. Have you heard about this one?
I have not.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me at first. My first impression when I heard about it was that it was a new game by Amanita Studios, who made Machinarium and Botanicula. And I love Machinarium, as I think you've also played that.
Yes, I really liked Machinarium.
Yeah, freaking great adventure game. So of course I thought like, oh, a new game from them. That's exciting. It isn't actually from them. It turned out that the musician for Machinarium was like contributing music for this adventure game, and that's like what I read originally. And it turns out that the maker of this game is still from the Czech Republic, just like Amanita Design. So this game still feels like an unofficial like Machinarium style adventure game. So I still really loved it, even though it wasn't like from those guys. It's the main draw of this game. I forget the name of the maker of the game. Let me see if I can really quickly look up the developer's name here. Papetura was by Paytums. So Paytums has this interest in paper crafting, and all the levels in this adventure game are made out of paper that he has meticulously sculpted and photographed and digitized. And that includes all the lighting. He's like shot these environments in his like studio with like meticulous lighting that like plays through this paper world that you walk around in. So by power of sheer like aesthetic value, this adventure game is like incredible to look at. It's I would like recommend how people experience this is to play like the first couple of rooms of the game and then look up like the making of a video on YouTube where you get to actually see how those two environments you just walked through are being sculpted by the developer and like put together and lit up, and how it transforms from like these elaborate paper models into a video game environment. This is like a passion project with two capital P's that I thought was really delightful to walk through.
That sounds amazing. I need to go look up that.
Absolutely. And the cool thing, bad thing, is that the game is really, really short. Obviously, because it is a lot of work to make level designs by hand like this. So, like, I beat it in less than 2 hours, I think. A good thing, because that means it's a nice, like, enjoyable, quick indie adventure that provides you with amazing sights and sounds. A bad thing, because, you know, if you're looking for a long-term game, this isn't going to provide that in any form. I will also say what ended up like kind of docking points is that Machinarium was fanciful and flighty, but it still was a understandable world. You understood that this was like a robot world. Everything was kind of recognizable. Their next game, Botanicula, was a lot more abstract because it was like these plants living on this one, these tiny plants living on this one plant, and the environments were a lot more dreamlike and, vague, incoherent, I guess. So it wasn't like it was a fun game, but it was like kind of hard to understand what this world was quite like. This paper world of Papetura is even more abstract because there's just weird like paper creatures living in strange worlds, and half of this, as I mentioned, less than 2 hour game is spent inside the stomach of this giant paper whale thing. But there's like bars that people hang out inside there, as if it's like the most casual thing in the world to be inside this paper thing. There's it at times you forget that you are inside a giant creature. So I think while it gives it, again, a really nice kind of dreamlike quality to the whole adventure, it's also kind of hard to wrap around exactly what's going on. Because also, just like Machinarium and Botanicula, there's no dialogue here, of course. It's all contextual as you work out what's going on. But it's still a unique experience, and I would happily recommend this for people to, for an afternoon to try out this wacky adventure game.
Nice. That sounds really, really fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And also, it's the easiest thing to recommend because, as mentioned, it's a tiny adventure game, so it's also easy on the budget, as you can imagine. So, and on the time and monetary budget. So,
nice.
Let's roll on to what's your pick number 5 for this year.
My number 5 couldn't be further from what you just picked.
Okay.
It is Hitman 3.
Really? All right. Yeah, well, it's certainly not a fanciful, dreamy thing. There's like one dream sequence and a cutscene in it, but...
Yeah, I was initially, when it came out, I remember we had an episode about this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't as enamored by it as you were. But then time went by, I played some more, and then I played some more, and then I found that I have been playing it, on and off for the entire year.
Oh, that's kind of neat. Nice.
Yeah, and then the more I played with it, the more I watched other people play, and the more I spent time with it, and I realized that, it's, it might not be one of my all-time favorites, but it is certainly exactly what a Hitman game is supposed to be, and it is a wonderful sandbox that I have grown to enjoy even more as time has gone by.
That's good to hear. Yeah. What is it that you think that keeps bringing you back to it? It's not a multiplayer game, so it's certainly not the competitive aspect.
I think it's a competitive aspect with myself. It's
yeah.
'cause I'll have like things of like, I think I could do this differently or more efficiently or, more in of a pacifist way. And then of course to my favorite thing, which is, can I do this so that I can be in and out without anybody seeing me, putting all kinds of different, expectations on myself, like, haha, I will not change my clothes, even once during the mission, and I will, sneak in and out without doing these kind of things. And once I realized that I can do all that I'm setting for myself, and the game never punishes me for it, that gets me really excited.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a great game for like challenge moding yourself with all kinds of stipulations. And yeah, the intricate level design certainly it seems like it does allow you like leeway to for your choices in every situation.
Mm. And I think part of what initially not like drove me off, but kind of prevented me from really enjoying it the first time was that my favorite Hitman previous was Hitman Absolution. And I realized that kind of, that really divides audiences.
Yeah, I think that's is that like the third or the fourth one?
I think it's the fourth one, and I remember that I had problems with the story and the whole edgelordiness that they tried to push into it. But I like the levels in it because they were they were a lot more streamlined, but they also had a ton of content in them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But in here, I think once you get to the first couple levels and you have this kind of almost overwhelming amount of stuff. I think the first time it got to me because I was just like, when you have that much choice, I kind of lock down. I get to the point where I'm like, I don't want to do any of this. This is too much.
Yeah, I guess especially if you're like prone to like kind of like challenging yourself. So you're like, I don't want to do the obvious thing of just walking in and popping the target with my gun, but like, how do I work out what would be the cooler thing to do? Like, I can see that being, yeah, overwhelming.
Right. But then over time, once I realized that I didn't have a time restriction, I didn't have anybody giving me expectations apart from myself, then I got into it. And then slowly but surely, I found myself going back to it over and over. And I think this is going to be a repeating theme of these games that I picked, is that did I go back to them to play them again? Because with games, like with movies, it's a little different. With a movie, it'll stay with you in a different way.
Yeah.
With a game, if I don't go back to it, if I don't enjoy playing it, if it's just a singular experience that was fun once and I don't want to do it again, it becomes a question for me like, what's the point then? I could have watched the movie, for example.
Yeah, I can understand that. And definitely Hitman 3, there's a lot of things to go for if you want to come back to it. Like, it's a great game for, like, I want to do something different than I did the first time. So, yeah, cool beans.
But that's my number 5.
Nice, I love it. Why don't you go ahead also with your number 4 then? If we roll on to the next little tier here, what was in your mind a little better than Hitman?
Number 4 is my biggest surprise of the year,
Ooh.
and a game that I never thought I would ever put on my top 10 list or any kind of list.
Okay, let's go.
It's Forza Horizon 5.
Ah, yeah, I understand that. You've gone on the record as not being an automotive person.
Yeah, no, I don't like car games. I don't like driving games. I don't like racing games. I find usually the kind of culture around them to be extremely off-putting. I don't even like the Fast and the Furious movies, so here we are. And this is kind of a combination of all of that. And it is still like when I started playing it for a review, I was like in the first couple of minutes, like I could feel my blood pressure boiling because it has the culture in it, the kind of world that they've created is really obnoxious. It's like the worst 1%ers in the world, showing up to poor countries and like taking it over to have these kind of car racing things and acting a mess. So that takes a little while to ignore.
Okay, so yeah, there is a little work to be done on that. Just an aside, I remember having this exact feeling for that Riders Republic game when it was announced, and also that other game from the developers before that had the same vibe. Because I was like, oh my god, why are we celebrating these douchebags going to this place and just like doing crazy extreme sports stuff? So I understand this feeling you have on this car front.
Right. But then I started playing it. And the game did something I didn't expect, which was basically going, we don't care how you play. We
Mm-hmm.
don't care how you race. We don't care how you place in the races. We don't even care if you want to be a part of this whole thing. We care about you having fun.
Okay. All right. So it provides you different gameplay modes then.
It's an open world game where you can
Hmm.
race in the way you like with the kind of cars you like, and even if you like end up driving like a complete buffoon like I do because I'm not very good,
Yeah.
it gives you points for like happy accidents, so to speak. Like, oh, you went over this hill and you were flying through the air. Here's some points for making a really cool jump through the air, or like, or making doing donuts because you accidentally skidded with your car, or you get points for running into these bushes and like having stuff fly around you, and it's called like you get landscaping points from it.
Okay. Yeah, I can see the appeal in that.
And then once you got to the point where you have your friends come along and to form like caravans and you do like these road trips where you're listening to, music and talking as you're doing this, it became extremely chill
Hmm.
and extremely fun. And I found myself going back to it over and over again so I could go and find cars that I liked and like, classic cars instead of just the new racing cars and then modifying them, making them look like cars that I, like the, colors that I like and all that. And once I realized that this was just a big sandbox in the same way like Hitman is, that it's a game that emphasizes the game portion. It emphasizes the fact that remember how much fun it is just to go and try something that you're not going to experience ever on your own. I'm not going to ever drive a 4x4 up a volcano, even though I would like to. I
Mm-mm.
probably will not.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of obstacles, logistical and legal for that.
There might be a few, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was so surprised. I like I mentioned in my video review that I am not the target audience, and I had an absolute blast with this.
Okay. Yeah. It's good on the developers because I have been hearing a lot of good buzz for this game, and like you, I don't really want to jump onto something like this. If I had to play an automobile game, I would be more about the Mario Kart scene myself. Is what appeals to me. So
Right, yeah, Mario Kart is like its own completely own genre basically. And that's something I enjoy. That's fun because you don't get to throw, blue shells at anybody in this.
yeah, but the point is that despite that, like this still provided entertaining material to you for
Yes, so much. I'm flabbergasted how much.
groovy. That sounds fun. I might give it a whirl someday if I can sneak in the time or the opportunity to get a look at that. Yeah, cool, cool, cool.
All right, and you're number 4.
Okay, well, let's go to my number 4 here, and it's appropriate that you mentioned that you weren't quite as enamored by Hitman 3 as I was, because my number 4 is in fact Hitman 3, so I ranked it a little bit better than you. So yeah, let's quickly rehash some of the thoughts and my perspectives on that. I'm coming from the spot where I hadn't played Hitman's 1 and 2. I've only dabbled in some of the earlier series before this reimagining. So I think that's why it ranks a little low for me, is I wasn't super invested in the story or anything coming in the last chapter. But it was, like you said, the gameplay elements in this game make it such an enjoyable thing to play through. The level design, if you're someone who appreciates that, it's really lovely. These, I would say, the all the levels except the last one are really charming, and the last one's really good, but it's designed to work much differently than the previous game so far. It's still fine on a first go, but it's those other levels before that that are really the star attraction. And yeah, I think what I find captivating is, like you, I did enjoy going back to it for a while after I'd done my first playthrough, taken out all the targets. And what I find appealing is because you have a checklist in the game of things to do in the world, and that makes the whole thing feels like an interactive, very violent Where's Waldo adventure. Because, Waldo books have that checklist at the back after you found Waldo. It's like, did you find all of these things in our art? So this has the same mechanic. It just usually ends with something horrible happening to someone. So, because it's like really cool to like, sometimes they're not even like super clear. It's like you gotta kill a character in some like really, really like absurd way. I think the craziest is the first level is like you have to first of all trick your two targets into like doing like a skydive, and even there's two options. You can either rig their suits to like be faulty so they just fold their deaths, or you can be like a gunslinger and shoot them both out of the air while they're doing their skydive, and that's like really wacky to me. That's a possibility to do in the game.
What was your favorite level?
Oh gosh, I think in my review when we first talked about it, it was the Berlin level, just cause it was by far the most opportunities to do stuff, because there's so many targets in that level, unlike the other ones which are just one or two people. The Berlin level was tons of like goofiness going on there, and just it's a rave party at an abandoned nuclear silo, which is again like gonzo concept that I find delightful. I think I'm still leaning on that. Of course, the Agatha Christie level is like phenomenal as well. The house on the English moor, that has a place in my heart. Of course, it's super delightful digging around in that old British mansion.
That is probably my favorite level, that one.
Yeah, I think that's about where we fell. Yeah, and it's hard to say no to that level. I will say the China level is frustrating for the forced combat sequence at the end. That's a kind of a damper, because that level's very cool as well. It's got that cyberpunky vibe to it in like this Chinese surveillance state. Which is great, and there's some really cool kills there as well. You get to kill one of the people by their own hubris, which I managed to do, and I was like, oh, now that's satisfying. But yeah, the combat wasn't super great in the game. I was playing like absolute stealth, so I didn't enjoy having to do that in the end of that level. So that probably also docks this game a little bit. Likewise, the Agatha Christie level has if you're doing the level, you can't not do the sub part, which is to like find this document in the house. That's not super interesting either, especially because they don't even change the code on the safe. So it's more of just a question of like, can you get to that safe every time? So it's not terrible, but that's just like a little like little duck of a point for the game. Yeah.
Right.
But overall, good game, amazing level design. Very interesting to see that James Bond game, how they're going to apply their knowledge of level design to that concept and whatever else they might be coming up with. I'm really happy to see where this studio is going to go forward.
Right. That's a really good choice.
Yeah, defo. And why don't I roll on then to my number 3 then? Because I think Hitman's exhausted by now. We finally had one that we both had on our top 5. Last year we didn't have one yet, so this time we got one. Yay.
Woohoo!
But my number 3 is going to be, well, it's Deathloop.
Oh, all right.
So I remember we just recently, it's not that long ago when we did our episode, we actually had a lot of critique for this game, so I don't know if we came off as a little bit of negative Nancy's for Deathloop, but in the end that was because we love Arcane Studios and their production. So I think it was coming from a place of we wish this could have done a little bit better. Wouldn't you say that?
It's not in my top 10, so yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I wish it had done better.
Okay, well. Don't worry, Arcane, because for me at least, Deathloop managed to sneak itself in. When I like thinking about it a little bit more, a little bit like tempering my expectations. It's still a damn finely crafted video game that like the systems work really well. Just like Hitman, the level design is pretty top notch. I'd say Hitman is probably a little bit better. Because Deathloop, as intricate as the levels are, and it's cool how they change throughout the 4 phases of the day, 4 levels does start to wear a little thin as you go on through the game. I think we'd both agree on that point. But the kind of Rube Goldberg device that you're setting up throughout the game to like figure out the optimal kill on the characters, the 8 visionaries, it's a really fun thing to see it come to fruition, and it's fun to see like little bits of like when you do stuff like how the things you do early in the day like change up a little bit of something later. Like it just like shows that the world is like living and reactive. Like my favorite was like every evening when you go to the area where the party is happening, and the wolf masked guy is doing his party, he'll normally be like, all right guys, get ready for the big fireworks show happening today, it's gonna be sweet. And if you in the morning, if you kill the DJ who is running the fireworks, in the evening he's just like, well, we were gonna have an awesome fireworks show, and that dickhole Colt went and killed our pyrotechnician, so that's not happening. I'm gonna give free admittance to anybody who can go and kill that guy for me. I thought that was like, yeah, that was really funny to get that reaction out of him.
Yeah, there was a lot of things I loved about the game, and one of them was that whole... The dialogue was great. You know, the little details that Arcane does so well were all great.
Yeah.
But as of November, it still doesn't work properly on my PC.
Oh, no.
I'm still having stutters. I'm still having issues with it. And, like, this is something that's not isolated to just my computer. And I have a high-end computer that should not be doing this. But it is such a broken product still that I have not gone back to it. I finished it for my review, and I put it down with, disappointment, and I'm gonna wait. Maybe next year it'll be in a playable shape if they release, expansion packs to it. That's what happened with Dishonored. But right now, it's not in a place where I can recommend it.
Okay, I like totally understand that. I can't just poo-poo away like, the game despite all that. Like, obviously, if there's like critical problems with the like game functioning, like you can't just ignore those faults to it. So yeah, that totally makes sense to me. And of course, like I said, like it's still not my favorite Arcane game. Yeah, hard to say if it's Dishonored or Prey. No, it's Dishonored.
Dishonored is my favorite as well.
Yeah,
it's so good.
So this one's didn't quite reach that, but once again, the like unique 60s spy aesthetic. I certainly haven't seen that in a lot of games. Like what's the game with the it's like a woman James Bond like first person shooter game?
No One Lives Forever.
That's the one, but that's like 20 years old. That's the one thing I can think of that has the same kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, I hate that it's 20 years old. I feel so ancient now.
Here we go again. We are our bones creaking live on the stream.
Yeah, because I remember playing it when it came out and was so enamored by it. Oh, man.
Yeah. I hear the Perfect Dark is coming back, apparently. That's not got the 60s vibe, but it's got the same kind of gameplay vibe.
Oh, we are mining that nostalgia barrel.
Apparently so, but Perfect Dark, again, cool if they update the gameplay to this day. Yeah, I'll look forward to that. Yeah.
They could also bring back Time Splitters. I'd be all over that.
That'd be neat too, actually. Yeah. Come on, guys.
Chop, get to it.
Yeah. But anyway, as for Deathloop, yeah, that's where I am. Like, with the games I played this year, it's charming 60s swinginess and the looping itself managed to snag spot number 3 for me. And also, I got lucky and didn't have any critical bugs in it. That certainly helped a lot as well.
It gets a grudging, good effort from me.
Like a weak thumbs up, kind of shaky thumbs up.
Yeah, it gets a participation trophy.
Yay! Congrats! Yay! Check, clap, 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 clap. All right, let's roll on to your number 3.
My number 3 is Halo Infinite.
Oh, let's go!
I am, as of recording, I am just about to finish the campaign. This is going to be reviewed, and how do I put this? The first couple of hours, I was enamored by it.
Yeah.
The next couple of hours, I was really worried that it was going to be terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came around and won me over again, to the point that I can't stop thinking about it. I want to go back to it. And then in about, however many months it takes, and I hope they take their time and really, really, fine tune it. But once the co-op campaign comes out, I think it's going to be an even better experience with friends.
Oh, yeah, that's certainly, I'm looking forward to it, especially when you mentioned to me that it really is a open world take on Halo. That sounds exciting, and that they got that to work.
Yes, and then this is the thing where it was, because I had a couple of hours where I was like, oh no, did they Ubisoft it?
Oh, Ubi, please.
Yeah, because there's a moment where you're like, I'm just running from place to place, opening up these, points of interest that then show me where other, repetitive missions are.
Right,
and I had this moment for a couple of hours where, like, I'm having fun, yes, but let's not pretend like there's a lot of content here. This is still, repeating the same task over and over and over.
Okay.
And that lasted for about 2 hours, maybe 3.
Okay.
And then the story kicks in.
Ah.
And once the story kicks in, you can play it as a traditional Halo game if you like, that then has massive open world, side quests to go and do. And once that balance kicks in, it's a fucking blast.
Okay, that sounds crazy doing quests in Halo.
Right, and it's a little rough in the beginning. Like, there's a rough landing because there's a very traditional Halo opening and a very traditional first few hours where you just go through, very closed, limited spaces and do the, good old Halo thing.
Ah, okay. They're kind of like easing into it, I guess.
Right, and then they really drop you in. It's like, here's the world map, and good luck.
Okay.
and then you're for a couple of hours like, if you're like me, you're like, okay, this is cool. You can go pretty much anywhere. It's not 100% open world. They have it like in old Grand Theft Auto games that they've got like areas that are locked up by like, oh no, the bridge is out. You can't get there until you go and, start this place up and, all that.
Right, but I think that's a reasonable like concession for an open world game.
It is, and once you actually get a couple of hours in, and once you actually do a couple of things in the plot, what I'm not going to spoil, once you get those done, you get to go and you have a much more open experience again.
Okay, that's pretty neat, and the storytelling is good.
The story is fantastic. Yeah, it's really good, and I think that it's going to be an immense amount of fun with friends because it's the kind of thing where you experience the story together and you get so much more out of it. And then, of course, the way I don't know how they're going to, actually do the whole co-op campaign, because I think it would, take a lot from the, CPUs and the servers if you allowed everybody to just go freely anywhere on the map. Because what if you die? Do you where do you respawn, for example?
Right.
These kind of questions. But at the same time, I hope they give people a lot of leeway, because there are clearly the kind of, when you go raid enemy bases, because there's lots of really huge enemy bases that you can go raid. There's at least a dozen ways you can enter them or take them over. Like you can do whatever you want basically in terms of going there. So
Okay.
I can just see that once you get your friends along, that you have this kind of these opportunities that somebody drives a tank in while another person provides, air support, and another person, sneaks in through underground tunnels.
Yeah,
And
you can like it's like a team of operatives setting up like this surgical strike. Wow, yeah, that sounds super appealing.
yeah, there's all that potential. So now it becomes a question of what happens with the co-op down the line. But right now, as a single player thing, I found it to be a really fantastic addition to the whole saga. And I've had my ups and downs with it, but one thing that I will say, it does not have a library level.
Okay, well, isn't that a relief?
That's a huge relief. But yes, this was a great one. I'm really glad that they pulled it off because they were having a really hard time with the production. But it's one of my favorite games of the year.
And take note, all the devs out there, they made a pretty big gamble by like delaying this by like basically a year, I guess. And apparently that extra time paid off. They
I'm glad they delayed it. I would have been fine if they had delayed it to next summer as well. But I understand that they had a real panic now that it was the 20th anniversary, and all that. That
Yeah, that's a kind of
they
a
needed to get to a deadline. I understand. But take your time because
yeah.
once you take your time, you get the better product, and nobody cares how long it took to get there. Once the thing is out, they only see the finished product.
Yeah, super good. At the time of our recording, the campaign isn't out yet, and I'll probably wait on getting it until the co-op campaign is out, so that we can just enjoy it right away together. So I
Yeah,
can't comment on the single player at all, but of course the beta has been out for the multiplayer, and I can definitely say that that's been delightful old school Halo. In a good way, like they've really like kind of streamlined it for the modern FPS scene, but it's still like it's got all the trappings I enjoyed of the very first Halo, so it's good stuff.
absolutely.
And I'm just going to make a really quick executive note here that because we record our episodes in early December, games that come out in December kind of fall into a little bit of a crevasse of like, do they make it on the show or not? So I'm just like saying right now that I think for the Minsk and Friends Speakeasy, our like year timer starts from December of last year and runs to like somewhere around mid-December of next year, just so that, any big releases that come out in December will get their chance to, appear on the list. So I'm just basically saying that I'm basically reserving the right to drop Halo Infinite in my top 10 list next year, because I imagine I could very well enjoy it enough to put it in there. But obviously I haven't had the chance to play it, so there's no way I can put it in my list right now.
If the co-op campaign works as well as I hope it does, it'll probably be in my next year's list as well.
All right then. Sounds good.
So do I go on with number two? Was
Yeah,
that
I think let's we're jumping to top 2, and I believe it is your turn to tag in.
my number two is again something I was not expecting to be here, but here
All
we
right.
are.
Here we go.
It is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Yeah, of course. That did come out this year. Yeah, it was in the spring of this year.
And I don't have a history with the series. I'm not a massive fan like I know some people are because it's been a PlayStation exclusive and I haven't always had a chance to play them. But this had the same kind of feeling to me as Mario 64 did 20 years ago.
No, that's big praise.
Yeah, it's an incredibly well-made platformer that has an extremely charming story, wonderful characters, just a really sweet message, and just it was like playing your very own Pixar movie.
Very cool.
And on top of that, it had so much to go and explore, and so many collectibles, and so much just pure joy in the actual adventuring that I actually went back multiple times to play it again. Which
Okay.
is something that, for a single player thing that is just one, it's one very defined experience. That's really good because I very rarely go back. I'm not a collector of those, I don't feel like that I need to collect everything and 100% everything in a game. That's kind of a waste of time in my opinion. But here I went and I did that.
very groovy. And I remember one of the selling points, of course, was to sell on the PlayStation 5's like solid state drive, removing load times. So did that work out in the end? Like, is it like the transfer between areas super seamless?
Oh yeah, it's a technical marvel. Like I am still confounded at how they managed to get that out. Because usually the traditional knowledge, like the kind of lessons or kind of rules with consoles are that the first couple of years, especially the first year, you get a bunch of games that are kind of gimmicky, but still kind of rough with around the edges because it's new technology. This feels like something that it has been, that this feels like something that should be coming out at the end of the console generation run.
Right.
That when they've already mastered everything you can do with the system, because this is already doing like they managed to get a PlayStation 5 to run at 60 FPS with ray tracing and almost non-existent load times with everything cranked up, and it just runs beautifully.
Nice. That's super good to hear. I guess like Sony must have been like really banking on this, so they must have been like giving a lot of like opportunity for the developers to like work on it. Was it Sucker Punch who made?
Sucker Punch, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that one of the things that is against it is, of course, because there's the component shortage and there's the console shortage. So a lot of people haven't had a chance to, get a PlayStation 5 and to play this on top of it. But I think as we move on in the next couple of years, once we start, climbing out of this hole that we're in, I think this is going to be retroactively remembered as, one of the big classics that kind of got lost in this whole, kerfuffle.
Well, I remember that the hype for this game was pretty big, like when it came out. Although, as you noticed, I had kind of forgotten it by the end of the year. Now that that was a thing too. But
right, but it's an exclusive. It's on a console, and I know you don't really play. You don't have a PlayStation, so
I don't, unfortunately, know. Not even a PlayStation 4 anymore. I had at one point, but not anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those that I understand that not everybody's going to be it's not for everybody. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely a wonderful blast.
Well, I remember that when the minute they revealed Ratchet's alternate reality counterpart, was it Rivet, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, like I remember, like, I was like thinking, like, internet is gonna go nuts for this character, and a second later, I was like, who am I kidding? I love this character myself already. She's so cool. So
she is one of the best parts of the game. I have tried not to look her up online because I'm afraid of the amount of Rule 34 stuff about her.
Yeah, that's probably a very real possibility, but still, apart from that, pretty cool character.
Very cool, and I hope we get to see more of her.
Yeah. Let's hope that the series gets to continue with this new breath that it got, and maybe now that Sony's opening up the ports, hey, come on, guys, this seems like an optimal choice for a PC drop.
Yeah, maybe we got Crash Bandicoot on the PC.
Oh yeah.
But you're number 2.
Let's go to my number 2, and it's finally time to get to some RPGs here, because this year has been absolutely nuts for RPGs in particular. I feel like there's been like tons of high-profile releases that have like reviewed well on Western RPG fronts and on JRPG fronts. There was you reviewed Solasta. I remember you were a big fan of that early in the year, and I haven't gotten around to that yet, but it looks fantastic. Like you were a big fan, right? I think
I liked Solasta a lot. Yes.
Yeah. And then Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous came out as like a competitor on that, and on JRPG fronts, oh my gosh, what have we got then? Like we've had like Tales of Arise, Shin Megami Tensei 5, all these things, and I guess I'm like prefacing this that these games might be better than my pick. But like I didn't have the chance to play all these giant tens of hours of games, unfortunately. I love this genre, and I'm like thrilled that there's all this opportunity. But I had to make some like judgment calls on which ones I picked to play. Unfortunately, the RPGs I picked to play this year were freaking fantastic. So my number 2 is gonna be the odd curveball. It's Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin.
Ooh.
Yeah, this I went on a whim because I haven't played like Monster Hunter basically. So this is a review coming from someone who's not like initiated in the series beyond like knowing the surface level stuff of the series. And still, I love this RPG. It is an incredibly cool JRPG. I guess really quickly, how familiar are you with Monster Hunter?
I've played, I think, Monster Hunter World.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
what was it? The one that came for the PC just a while ago.
Yeah, that was World, came out like a couple of years ago, I think, and that was a big gateway series for a lot of people. Like really opened up the series in the West for people. This thing's giant in Japan, this series, but like that like also broke the dam for the West, I would say. Monster Hunter World. I haven't had a chance to play that either yet. This is like I played a couple of the DS ones, the 3DS ones, and then now Stories 2. And Stories 2 is great. First of all, I just want to call out the genius person who like figured out that although, Monster Hunter, it's not like super like mature audiences. It's kind of like maybe like a little bit of teen audiences. I love that someone realized, hey, there's probably some younger players and younger-minded players who would rather want to be friends with the monsters than just hunt them. And so I'm like, oh boy, I get to have my own team of monsters in this game. But it's not just that, obviously, that you get to have cool monsters you hang out with. It's a really meticulous JRPG system that plays very differently from a lot of the hallmarks, because it like tries to like integrate the gameplay mechanics of Monster Hunter, which is it's an action RPG, very heavy on the action, a little lower on the RPG. I've heard some people say it's like Dark Souls, but only the boss fights, basically. Yeah. So this one like tries to like sneak in a lot of the mechanics involving like kind of hitting certain body parts of the enemies to like get effects out of them, and like building up a meter to like unleash your moves and stuff, which, okay, I guess that's kind of like limit breaks, but there's like a lot more systems to that. So like a first go, you're like, this isn't that crazy of a system, and you don't like have tons of opportunities, and you only control your own character. Like, your monster like operates solo. If you have a partner with you, they operate on their own, so you only assign moves to your own character. So it feels like maybe a little basic at first, but the interaction with the enemies, and then when you realize you can like interact with your like monster, you can like give commands to them, which has like actually sold this game for a lot of people from the Pokemon fan base who have been kind of tired of the Pokemon formula not evolving over the last like decade or two. Like a lot of people have converted to this game from that scene because this kind of has the same kind of vibe, but with all sorts of like new ways to interact with it. Like new ways to like sell that whole kid and their pet monster system, and it ends up becoming really rewarding adventuring in this world and fighting all the monsters you encounter, and like figuring out the optimal strategies. And like there's like one really like strong decision they made that I'm like, okay, that's like really smart of them, is this game has, a kind of a rock paper scissors system to them that a lot of RPGs have.
Okay.
There's like, you have 3 different types of weapons, and then you have 3 different types of attacks. And the weapon type's a little more simple. It's like certain weapons work better on certain monsters, so you work that out. But like there's also like when the monster like changes up their behavior, or they're like you're hitting different body parts, you have to pay attention to like which weapon you pick. But the 3 attack types are like really, really, really cool, because when you're picking your move, you see what the enemies are, who the enemies are going to attack. Like there's already like a line kind of showing what attack the which character the enemy is going to attack. You don't know, are they going to use a strong, speedy, or technique attack? So you have to like kind of like try to figure out which one to use, because if you choose to attack the monster, like basically like the two characters that are like clashing, there'll be like a clash between the monster that the line is drawn to. And if you picked the type of attack that beats the other one, you will do a lot more damage to the enemy than they will do to you. So like if a monster is going to attack me and I pick like speedy attack and they come with a strong attack, my speedy attack is better. So we both take a hit, but I take like just a few hit points of damage. And the monster takes like a big old hit from that. And like I win that engagement, basically. And what I think is so cool is that, there's no like guide for what... There's no like way to like kind of like... There's no like indicator for what the monster's going to do next, but all the monsters kind of have like patterns of how they fight. And someone could say that that's like a quality of life problem, that there isn't like like a guidebook for this monster uses these attacks or whatever. I think that like really sells the Monster Hunter concept of paying attention and knowing your enemy. So you have to like kind of pay attention after like fighting a monster for a while to kind of learn like, well, this monster favors these types of moves. And sometimes in like certain situations, like if they go into an angry state, they'll switch it up. And and then like you just kind of like apply your own knowledge of how you know the enemies work to like efficiently fight them. And I think that's really smart. And it obviously it gets trickier. Like at the start of the game, there's like all the monsters just use one type of attack. But then they start to vary it up, like, this monster is now in a rage state, which means it starts to vary it up. Or then they get even trickier later on, where like this monster cycles through a certain like order of attack types, and you have to like kind of try to remember that. And that can be demanding, but I think it's like really rewarding that they've made this action RPG concept of like watching your enemies move and learning them. They like applied that to the RPG mechanics.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's really thrilling, and I want to call out the game is beautiful. It's got this amazing like I always call it like a shonen anime. It's got that kind of same visual flair to something like a Naruto or a Bleach, or like these kind of like more younger audiences animes, but it's also got a lovely like down-to-earth kind of natural vibe to it as you're like in this pastoral jungle world. It's just delightful to look at, and I loved making like my own like shonen protagonist, scruffy hero like kid. And there's great costumes you get to do. Like obviously that's part of Monster Hunter, is getting super cool costumes. I love the selection in it. It's great all over. I think this is like a surprise RPG hit of this year, and I think fans of RPGs, if they've been sleeping on this one, I think this is worth looking into.
Would you say, even for people like me who are not Monster Hunter fans, that you would recommend it?
Yes, I definitely, at least, I think it's like, maybe if it's on a sale at some point, I think this is like a fun game and it's worth trying out. It is it has some of that. If you don't like the grindy part of Monster Hunter, it does have a little bit of that, obviously, since you need to collect monster parts for making your your new armor and weapons. I find that my benchmark is, if I just progress in the main story and I just do the fights that come up throughout like my journey doing the main story, like am I able to stay competitive, or do I have to like stop to like grind? I found that I haven't played the full game through, but I'm a good chunk in. I found that I haven't like had to like fall into that. I've been able to like kind of make pretty steady progress without worrying too much about about being stuck to grind. So I don't think I wouldn't say you have to worry about that too much.
Sweet.
Yeah. So good job, Capcom. You surprised me. You like got a really accessible Monster Hunter thing. I'm gonna probably have to play Monster Hunter Rise now once that gets its PC port. So you got me. Yeah. But why don't we talk about what your spot number 2 is?
We just did.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God. I'm out of order, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, it's your number one.
That's right. We're scrolling down to my number one. My apologies. I got mixed up there for a bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll stay on the RPG front then, because while Monster Hunter 2 is great, I haven't had the time to beat that yet. But I did beat this game, so I'm gonna one last time this year. I'm gonna hype up Bravely Default 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the old schooliest of old schooly Square RPGs, and I'm a complete sucker for that, so I am gonna slap this as my number one, because I spent 90 hours playing this all throughout spring and summer, like, on my lunch breaks at work, or just in the weekends, and it's a really solid, like, Final Fantasy clone of, like, old school Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I remember you were really enamored by it when we had our video about it.
Yeah, I was, and I'm happy to say I did not like my like enchantment did not drop as we went on through it, as I kept playing it. Like it holds up. I will say, of course, that if you've played the first Bravely Default, which I played about like a third to a half of, I think this is not like new ground that much. So fans of the series, I know, have been a little bit like, it's fine, but we've done this song and dance already. For me, I don't know. It managed to like really hook me in a way that the first one didn't, because I played through the whole damn thing. Oh gosh, what can I still say? It was throughout its run. It was quite a challenging RPG, as we both discovered when we played the first chapter of the game for our review. Like, it doesn't really ease up very much because you unlock new jobs and get more abilities. Like, I think the mid part gets a little easier, but then like the last couple of chapters, I was kind of fuming like at some of the bosses. I was like, that's it. I can't beat this guy. I'm like, this is it. My playthrough's done. I don't know how I can survive against this dude. But a little bit of playing around with all the abilities available for me, which by that point in the game is a lot, and I kept on chugging through, and I'm happy to say I beat the game, so yes.
All right, nice. I was not as impressed by it as you were, but then again, I'm not as much into old school. I think the grindiness is what gets me.
Yeah, well, like Monster Hunter stories, I didn't find it actually that grindy, but of course, this is a little bit of what's the definition of grind. Like, I did fight a lot of enemy encounters that I could have kind of walked around, but and those fights, of course, might get a little long in the tooth. If you keep going through them, maybe it helped that I played this game in chunks. So yeah, I think if you fight every encounter you get into, I think you stay pretty good until like the very end, where you get one more job that you kind of have to stop to grind if you want to max out that job. That's what I did. That's the only time I like really like pumped the brakes to do a lot of grinding. But yeah, okay, if you're not like super enamored with the game system, then I can see that the actual progression can feel like a grind in itself. So I don't fault that at all.
All right, yeah.
I'm happy to say, because as we talked about in our review, the first Bravely Default has a very disappointing last act. I'm happy to say that Bravely Default 2 does not have that. The ending might be like a little bit like, they could have done a little bit more here. It maybe was a little lackluster, but there wasn't anything like, oh god, this final part is terrible. It was fine until the end. And I loved the characters. They were all super quirky. I loved that a lot of the bosses like kept showing up as characters afterwards. They kept being part of the story. Like if you put the time into the side quests, there'd be like fun follow-ups for all sorts of characters you kept running through. And music is fantastic by Revo again. There's no surprises there. The level design was kind of as a lot of RPGs these days are. Like, it didn't like suddenly turn fantastic towards the end, but it was passable. And yeah, maybe a little bit maybe a little bit eyebrow raising that I put this as my number one, but I guess for me it was like the perfect throwback to 90s Square RPGs that I needed.
Sweet. I'm really glad you enjoyed it that much.
Yeah, I'm super thrilled. I hope, because obviously we know this game was made on a budget, and I think this has been a modest success. I hope to see if Square gives the guys a bigger budget for whatever the next sequel's gonna be, because this game has insane sequel numbering. Is it gonna be Bravely Default 3? Is it gonna be Bravely Second 2? Is it gonna be Bravely Third? But whatever it is, I hope it gets a bigger budget, and I'd love to see what they're gonna be able to come up for that installment.
Well, I will definitely play it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get into it again, but they have so much good in them, purely on a presentation level, that I love spending time with them on that front.
Yeah, there's heart there, definitely heart coming through all the technical and budgetary limitations, and it resonates with me definitely. But yeah, that was my top 5 for this year. So let's find out, what did you find to be the best game of this year?
My best number 1 is a shared position again.
Okay, let's go.
And it's a shared position because I don't know if putting one of these games in the top spot is cheating.
Aha. Oh, I think I know what one of those games is going to be then. So
Because it's a re-release.
Yeah.
One of them is a re-release, but it is slightly different enough that it maybe... So, some people who have listened and know, who have met me, who have listened to me rant about this, but Disco Elysium Final Cut.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Disco Elysium, which is one of the best games ever made, got a final cut that has, a full voice acting, has some new added quests in it, has new music, new dialogue, bunch of new things in it. But at the same time, it's not a drastically different enough release that I felt justified putting it in. But I wanted to give a shout out to it, that if you haven't played it, it's now on every console. It's on the Nintendo Switch even.
Yeah. I looked up some clips of the old version with the old voice acting and the lack thereof, and definitely the experience is much different with, all your skills, all the facets of your mind, them all have full voice acting. That does change the experience significantly.
Yeah, but it's just enough. I couldn't, with a good conscience, I would have felt like a cheater here.
Same here. I didn't put it in my top 5, but it probably would have been somewhere in my top 5 if I had felt like I could put it in there. But yeah, no, I agree absolutely. It's worth at least hyping up how good that game is, because it's very good.
Yeah, if I haven't, loved on it enough, it's great. But here we go. My real number 1 of the year 2021. Again, something I would not have expected to happen, and I was very surprised when I got to this point that I was filling out my list and thinking of what I have enjoyed. Resident Evil Village.
Yeah, let's freaking go! I was like, it's probably gonna be in your top 5 at least, but I had no idea it'd be your number 1.
Because I first played it on my own as a review on the Xbox, and I was like, well, this was surprisingly fun. And then... I kind of dropped it for a while, and then we played it again in our marathon, Twitch stream, which is on YouTube now. And, I just... And then I went back to it after that. I went and played it again on the hardest difficulty.
Nice.
And I beat it on the hardest difficulty, and then I went back to collect... the hidden things, and then I went back to find, the alternate routes and the, stuff that you can do in it if you do things a little bit differently.
Right.
And I just kept going back, and then I started thinking about it and realized that this is the game I have enjoyed most all year.
That's fantastic. I remember your initial review was like, it's a really fun roller coaster ride. And I thought, well, that means it's probably not going to be his favorite thing of the year, but at least it got good points. But,
yeah, but then I went back and I'm like, well, like a good roller coaster ride, it stuck with me. And I want to go on it again and again and again and again. And after I had played it for 4 times, and 4 times, to completion, I realized that this is the most fun I've had with a pure video game all year because it's got great characters. It's so much fun to play. It's scary, it's funny, it's exciting. It is just open enough that you can, go and do a bunch of things in it and have fun on your own terms, but then also follow a story. You can do a speed run, which is, amazing. Like the fastest I've done so far has been speed running through the game in like just under 2 hours.
Wow, that's really good.
So it's so much fun, and it's such a reinvention of what Resident Evil could be.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, I love all the villains in it. The villains cast this time around is like the best they've ever made.
It's top notch. They're so freaking like fun. Like these characters they came up because they're all like these horror movie like tropes, but they're played up like so perfectly.
Yeah, and it's just the village itself is so atmospheric, so much fun. There's nothing really bad I can say about this in the end. Like, okay, the writing is at times very Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So you get, and the entire, thing could have been avoided by one character saying one thing. And, none of this would have happened. So it relies on a lot of convolutedness.
Absolutely. I remember asking that like when we started our like playthrough, like would this have been resolved if like, this character had spoken just a little bit longer to like elaborate, and you were like, yeah.
Yeah, would have been if somebody had just said, hey, by the way, we're doing this, none of this would have happened.
But the funny thing is that the game actually calls that character out later. Like one of his subordinates is like, we really should have, let Ethan in on what was going on, and the guy's just like, yeah, we should. So I love that even the game did have like that much like kind of like knowingness to it.
Exactly, but yeah, I'm surprised. This was a surprising year in terms of I was really expecting to be that certain games would have been in my top 5 or top 10 that were not there. Like I was really hoping Battlefield would have been there, but it is not. It is conspicuously absent, and we had a bunch of things that got delayed. Like I was really expecting to be playing the new God of War by the end of the year, but here we are. But at the same time, this was a good year for games. There was a lot of really good and varied games that came out, and I haven't even touched all of the games that have been sent to me or that I've, put on my wish lists. So
yeah,
there's
same here. That's why I was apologizing about all those RPGs I never got around to, because how good I with this selection this year.
All right. So yeah, it was really good.
Freaking fantastic. And I guess I should mention, like, just like Disco Elysium, I didn't put Resident Evil Village on my list. I didn't feel I could because I never did get around to playing it by myself yet. Obviously, I partook in it when we did the playthrough on our stream, so like I can definitely hype up the game, but there was just a little bit of like I can in good conscience like at least like put it in my list because I didn't actually get around to playing it myself. But like I'm happy to hype up Resident Evil Village all day long because I was so thrilled by our playthrough. I still remember how marked out I got by the one document near the end of the game which like ties Village's plot to like the the overarching Resident Evil narrative from like the previous games. Like there's a hook which explains how it relates to the previous games, and I was like so thrilled that that document was in the game. I was like, that's so cool.
Yep.
Fantastic. So freaking great list, Jonathan. I loved your picks. There was some real great insight there, and definitely I got some like choice games that I gotta go play. Even Village, that I do think I need to play it myself finally, even though I've enjoyed it so thoroughly already, vicariously like this.
I really liked yours as well because it's so nice to have like that we consistently have similar opinions on things, that we like the same things, but then when it comes down to it, it's so much fun to hear where you really differ and where you really like the stuff. I'm gonna have to go and try Monster Hunter at some point, and
Yeah.
I like it that even though both of us played and kind of enjoyed, like I kind of enjoyed Bravely Default, I like hearing just how much of it actually connects then with you. So,
Yeah. It's like so cool that this is where we see that we actually are like not just two guys going off on just like yes handing each other all the time. There is two great perspectives coming to this show here of all kinds of different games coming up.
yeah, we're great.
Yeah. Let's get a little bit more self-aggrandizing here. Why don't we? Oh, geez. Yeah. Look at I've walked myself into this like self-congratulating trap. God damn it. Oh well.
But it's been another crazy year,
Yeah, it certainly has.
and I think now we owe it to ourselves for a little bit of a Christmas break.
Yeah. Same to everybody at home. Like, I hope the year's been good for you all. And if you want to tell us about any games we overlooked today, like, feel free to drop a comment and tell us. And apart from that, well, we wish everybody a happy holidays and a safe 2022, where you can bet that we will be back with more takes on the latest games coming out. We've already named a bunch of things that we're interested in that's going to be coming out next year, so I don't think we're going to be starving for content, at least.
No, and I mean we're going to be starting the year off with a bang. We have God of War on the PC.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds good, definitely. And we were gonna just a little bit of like work here, like a little bit of behind the scenes. We were gonna drop a little Elden Ring preview, but timetables didn't really permit that episode to sneak out after all. But you can bet your asses we're gonna be all over it once we get closer to the release of that game. Hell yeah.
Both of us have played it a little bit now, and I think both of us are very excited to see how the full thing shapes up.
I'm getting jazzed. I'll tell you that much.
Indeed.
Okay, well, I think that's all for this year. Thank you for year 2 of the Minsk and Friends Speakeasy, Jonathan.
Thank you. This has been fun. Let's do it again.
Let's do it, and I hope you guys at home, you all feel like joining us for 2022. But for now, we're going to be signing off. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.